Merry meet. It's Rowan Ravenwolf. Guess what we're talking about today? That's right. Just some keys on how to cast a spell. So let's jump into it. All right. Yay. Thanks for joining me today. So I'm going to just give a high overview on how to cast a spell. So it's one thing that I get asked a lot from people who are new or people who have never cast spells and maybe have been practicing for a long time, because you don't necessarily have to cast a spell to be a witch. So, you may or may not know. So this is going to be a really high overview. I'm not going to go into a ton of details, but we're just going to get enough to get you going. So this helps if you have purchased any books, like there's the Encyclopedia of Spells by Judith Eichels. There's a ton of spell books out there, and like you get it and you're like, okay, but how do I do this? And so that's why I'm doing class today. So the first thing is you want to pick your intention, and the intention is the most important. So pick your intention, and if you pick healing or love, hold that as you're preparing your spell. Or if you're looking through a grimoire that you purchased from somebody, when you're going through and you're like, hey, I'm looking for a healing spell, and then keep that in mind. So the intention is what you want to achieve with the spell, and you want to be specific. When we're not specific, this is when things like don't come quite as we want. Like, for example, you could a spell to get extra money. Like maybe you just need a little extra money to pay a bill or maybe go on a vacation that you want to, and you do a spell. But if you're not specific, it could be that all of a sudden you're working overtime and you don't get a day off. That's not the way we want to get extra money, right? We don't want to burn ourselves out. So that's just a little example of how a spell can go wrong. So you want to be really specific. When you're specific, list a time frame. If you don't list a time frame, that energy you're trying to bring to you could say, oh, well, they didn't tell me they wanted this in 2 weeks. So, you know what? We're going to bring it to her within the year. So, you want to make sure you're specific with your time and you're specific with what you're looking for. You don't want to be vague. So, if you're doing wealth, be specific with wealth, because if you say abundance and you have a flower garden, your flower garden might all of a sudden become very abundant and beautiful. And you are like, but I wanted wealth. Oh, I used the word abundance. So, you want to be very, very specific. And you want your spell to be attainable. It's really easy to say, I need $1 million and do a spell to get $1 million. It might not be attainable. All right. So if you want a spell to get a raise so that you can get maybe an additional $5,000 a year, that's something that's attainable. So, is it a spell to get the courage to ask for this raise for 5,000 more a year? That's what you want. You want something attainable. And then when you're writing your spell or you're using your spell, you want to use present tense and you want to use positivity. So you don't want to say, I hope. You want to say, I will, or I have this money. Okay. So you want to be really, really specific, have that intention and be positive. So intention, 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 intention. When you set that intention, it will manifest. So your next step is preparation. So if you write your own spell or if you're using a grimoire, you have your intention in mind, then you want to prepare for it. And when you prepare for it, you want to gather everything you need. So are you going to be doing a poppet? Are you going to be doing candle magic? Are you doing a spell jar? Are you doing a mojo bag? Like, what type of spell is this? And get all the materials you need. I've had times where I'm like, oh, I'm going to do a spell jar. And then as I'm going around my house, I'm out of jars. This happens quite frequently sometimes. So I've gone, oh, well, you know what? I'm going to put it in a mojo bag instead. So you can do that as you're preparing. All right. Especially if you want to do the spell right away. Then if you don't want to do it right away, you can prepare and figure out your list of what you need. And then that way you can go pick things up if you need to. I like to do a lot more on the fly when I'm home. And so I could intend to do a pop-it spell and be like, well, this is going to be a candle spell. So keep that in mind. You may change it, um, but just always keep your intention. So you want to make sure you have everything you need. So you can prepare your spells a couple different ways. So you can, I like to, sometimes I'll do my spell over 2 days. It depends. So if I'm doing an extravagant spell, there's the possibility like a poppet. Okay. So if I'm going to do like a healing poppet spell, I may like the night before I'm doing the spell, I'm probably going to cut my poppet out just because it takes a while. And I will probably sew up my poppet and leave a space. And then the next day, or if I do it a couple days before, the day that I plan to do the spell, that's when I'm going to put my herbs and my stuffing inside. I'm going to sew it shut after I've called on the guardians of the watchtowers and cast my compass. And then I'll do that in there, and then I'll cast my spell. So this is really going to be up to your personal preference. A lot of times I'll have everything prepared and ready, and then I will cast my compass and do my spell and have prepare the spell while I'm in there setting the intention. Sometimes I'll even write on a piece of paper so that intention is right there and it's there the whole time. I'll write that intention. So if my intention is, heal myself or heal someone else, I'll have it right there. Like I might have like heal in their name and then cast the spell. So really go with what resonates with you. You don't need to do it how I do it. You don't need to do it how any other practitioner does it. Do what resonates with you. And I have a lot of people who ask me also, like, do I have to cast a circle? So you can cast a circle or a compass. It's going to depend upon your magical tradition. If you're casting a circle or a compass, they are a sacred space or a sacred container. So you may also hear cast your sacred space, cast your sacred container. You, you're creating something sacred. Do you have to cast it? You don't. You really don't. When I do kitchen magic, for example, like if we're sick and I'm making chicken noodle soup, I don't cast a compass. I literally, while I'm stirring, I'm like, may we both heal from this illness, or may we all heal from this illness. And I just, as I'm stirring, I stir in the healing spell into the kitchen witchery. So you don't have to. So please go with what resonates with you. It's your practice, it's not anybody else's. So that's not a hard and steadfast rule. When we're casting spells, this is shifting energy. So if you've had bad luck, you're shifting your energy to good luck. If you're sick, you're shifting your energy to healing. So keep that in mind. If someone else is sick, you're shifting someone else's energy to healing. So keep that in mind. That's what the spells are. And that's the important thing. Honestly, your intention is really important, making sure you're prepared and have all the ingredients that you need. If you don't have an ingredient, can you substitute it or do you need to wait? Some spells you don't want to wait on. Healing spells, you don't want to wait on healing spells. So when you are actually getting ready to cast your spell, you want to be alert. You want to be conscious. And a lot of times sometimes you want to be in a trance state so that you can get all that energy from like your subconscious and your unconscious and just bring everything into that spell. So it is really good. You want to make sure like don't cast it after a busy day at work because your energy level might be weird. You could be stressed from work, or you could be like, oh, I get to do magic, or oh, I get to do magic. I mean, like, you want to make sure you're in a good place. So I like to do a lot of my spell casting on the weekends, but if a specific spell needs to be done like on Friday for love, then I've got to do it on Friday, even though I worked 8 hours. So I'm definitely going to ground myself, which might mean doing a meditation. Do what you need to ground yourself, get yourself into a good mental state to be able to do the spell. If you're angry, you don't want to do a healing spell because that might it's not going to put out the energy you want. So that's where I really want to stress that is you want to have yourself in a great mental state. And you want to raise energy. Oh my gosh, this is like my favorite part of spell casting is raising the energy. So I like to use my drum. I have a shamanic drum and I love to just pound my drum. Sometimes I will dance. I was a dancer in a previous life and well, in my past, I should say. And I love to dance. So sometimes I'll light a big bonfire and I'll dance to raise the energy and I'll dance around the bonfire and I'll pick up that passion from the fire element as I'm dancing around my bonfire. And then last but not least, you can also chant and or sing, which I love to do. I don't have the best singing voice in the world, but I love to do it. So you may not ever catch me singing in public at an event, but I do love to do it. You will catch me singing if there's a lot of us. If there's a lot of us, and so people can't hear my screechy, I will sing. So you want to raise energy, and there's like a lot of different ways and tools that we can use to raise our energy in spellcasting. I encourage if you are doing material. So like if you're doing a candle spell, it's really easy to dispose of our candles. I like to use beeswax and soy because they are biodegradable. But a lot of our candles that we purchase at stores are paraffin wax ones, which they're fine. But biodegradable ingredients is the best for your spells, especially if you're burying a spell. Because if you're burying a spell in the ground, you want to make sure it's biodegradable and it's not going to damage our earth. A lot of people sometimes will actually throw them away in the trash. There's multiple ways to dispose of your spell when you're done with it. But you want to make sure, like, if you are throwing it away in the trash, make sure it's biodegradable. This is part of our practice as being pagans, is giving back to the earth and loving the earth. So we want to make sure that everything we're using is not going to damage the earth, that we're going to get back to the earth. And I can actually tell you, so a lot of times what I'll do is, like, when I burn my incense in the bottom of my cauldron, I'll have the remnants of the charcoal and the herbs that I burn. And that's really actually good to add to your dirt. So if you have like a garden or a flower bed or an herb garden or a vegetable or a fruit garden, it's really good to add that to the earth. So I did one 2 years ago and I had burned some juniper in there. And I dumped it in my flower bed I have like a flower bed right by my back door. So I dumped it there and I kind of mixed it with the dirt and gave everything Reiki and left it at that. I literally have a juniper bush that is popping up from the ashes. And my husband was like, "This is so cool." I'm like, "Right?" And he's like, "How did it happen?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh, it was from when I decided to mix my ashes. There must have been just a little bit of juniper that didn't burn." So don't be surprised if that happens, but I do love to do that. So, especially like sage. So when you burn sage, if you are burning the sage, the ash from the sage is very healthy for your soil, for your dirt, for your gardens. And so I do like to save those as a separate thing because it can actually boost. So you're able to give back to Mother Gaia and our earth and help our earth flourish. All right. So one thing I'm going to just bring up. So if you are like stirring, so if you're doing kitchen witchery, like I brought up, if you're stirring in energy, clockwise brings the energy to you, counterclockwise takes it away from you. So keep that in mind. If you're sewing a poppet to get rid of negativity, you're going to sew it counterclockwise. If you're doing a healing poppet for yourself, you would sew it clockwise. So keep that in mind when you're doing spells. You don't have to stick with that because there are other magical practices. So sometimes you will see it's like a spell for you, but you may see the person who wrote the spell may tell you, do this counterclockwise. You can ask them why. But again, I'm just kind of bringing it up, but do what resonates with you because you are your own spiritual guru and it's your practice. So don't let anybody like push you to do something that doesn't resonate with you. So this was spellcasting, literally high overview. I hope this has been extremely helpful. If you have questions, please feel free to put it in the comments. If you're on Patreon, you get this video before anybody on YouTube gets it. And I love comments. Comments help other people that may be new to the practice. It helps everybody grow. So please feel free to put a comment below. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. And feel free, put comments in if you like this video or if you have any more questions. When you look below, if you're on YouTube, you will have the link to my Etsy shop, my website, to classes, and Patreon, because yes, there are Patreon exclusives, and any video on YouTube actually goes to Patreon first. So have a very blessed day, and namaste.